Do women really want to be seduced?
Yes, they do, but on their own timetable. Females like seduction. They do if they're involved and it's their choice.
Everyone wants quick result, which makes the whole term misunderstood.
As opposed to physicality, you should always start a seduction with the power of your words and the way that you can make a woman feel verbally, because that's very powerful.
Hi ladies and gents, now welcome back to another episode of Karma Couch with none other than Annabella Rose
Hey!
and Iain Myles. So guys, today we're going to be talking to you about, do women really want to be seduced? That's going to be the topic for today, okay? But before we get going though, I just want to remind you to click on that magical red button right down below. Yep. That's the subscribe button, and
that's our favourite button.
Our favourite button. We love that button. Yeah, don't forget to click on it, and also click on that little bell icon at the bottom, which is the notifications bell. You will never ever miss anything from us at KamaTV. Today's topic is going to be, do women really want to be seduced? Okay. Now I know that a lot of people in society, when we talk about seduction, we get a mixed opinion from both sides, and
just split people down the middle.
Yes.
People are very. It all depends on, if you say seduction, depends on how much the person feels that it's a misogynist move. I feel like that's where it's split.
Yeah.
It's how you perceive the word seduction in your head, and whether it's a positive thing or if you think it's a negative thing.
Yeah.
Now, us at Kamalifestyles.com, we think it's a good thing. Seduction is amazing, and me personally, I love being seduced. I love that sort of foreplay, that sexual banter back and forth, and someone awakening my senses in a sexual fashion and seducing me. I really like that, and it's definitely in line with my personality. Whether I find people who can successfully do it, though, is a whole other board game. I think because obviously my standards of seduction, being in the pickup game, are quite high.
Yeah.
So it can be quite difficult in that sense. But if you get it right, I think it can be a real key element of foreplay and building intimacy.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
Yeah, no, it's true. Like, as you said, that when the seduction is taking place properly, then I think that's where the line is drawn, and basically, that's where seduction becomes something that is a positive thing. When you hear about stories and various articles online of a guy seducing a girl, and then something going wrong, and that, I think that's what gives it that negative meaning, okay? However, look, and I think the problem with society is that not everyone knows how to seduce. Not everyone knows the art of seduction. So I think that's where it gets the taboo about it. It gets the kind of taboo about it, and the negativity comes about through there. But when you actually really understand what it is, and that it's completely normal, and at some point of our lives, we're always seduced, whether it's
by money, by a person, by something that you want and desire. Seduction doesn't necessarily
advertising, it
doesn't have to necessarily be a sexual thing. It doesn't have to be between a man and a woman. You can get seduced in many ways. That element of a man being able to, with his words, seduce somebody is very attractive.
Yeah. But
to touch on the Me Too movement, that comes off the back of bad seduction techniques and a very forceful nature.
Uncalibrated, didn't assess the situation, didn't know what was going on.
Threw themselves into it because they wanted something, and it wasn't a shared view. It was a one-sided party. And so when it comes to, if females like seduction, they do if they're involved and it's their choice. If a woman is closed off from men in general, you could be the best pickup artist in the world and have the best words and the best mannerisms, but if she is mentally blocked off from men, you will not be able to seduce her. She will not allow herself to be seduced. So it's then your job as a man, or the person who is seducing, to be able to pick up on the body language and the signs that she's not into it.
Yeah.
Because that's when you get into dangerous territory. It's the misinterpretation of somebody's intentions. That's when you get into that negative aspect of seduction, and that's when it can become that taboo, the bad press, the bad media, and all the bad stories that give seduction a bad name.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to be careful of that, and that's kind of your responsibility as, if you're the leading party in that seduction, if you're the one that's attempting to do it, you have to be very wary of what the other person is feeling and wanting and responding to. Definitely. But then, to put a flip side, you can also get women who like seducing men. I find it very entertaining, me personally, because I am so open with my sexuality. I like to flip the roles on a relationship. I don't necessarily feel that it always has to be the man that approaches and seduces and does that, because I'm very much an alpha female in that regard.
Yeah.
But not many women are. So do you think that men should continue to seduce in the way that they have, or does something need to change to kind of get rid of that negative aspect of seduction?
I think that men, men should learn the proper way of seducing, or learn how to persuade women into that intimacy. I think learn how to do it better, and they can be a bit more subtle on one side, they can be a bit more forward on the other side, and really is trying to find that balance between the two. You don't want to be too forward and you don't want to be too subtle. But going back to your point, I certainly think that in terms of the world as a whole, society as a whole, I think it would be good and healthier to even see women to start seducing men, and I think that you would kind of get rid of a lot of those stereotypes that you hear about in the media. A lot of the kind of taboos of say, I don't know, men say seducing or picking up women. So I would welcome going into a bar and seeing,
getting the Annabella touch.
Yeah.
I think what something that people have to be wary of when it comes to seduction is, I think sometimes men forget their physical presence and what that does in a relationship and how it makes a woman feel. Because you can be saying the nicest words, but if your body language and your demeanor doesn't match the words that you say, it's very easy, if you don't do it right, to create a bad energy. And it can be so easily done. And it's not by any sort of bad intentions. It's just by a mismatch of what you're saying out loud and what you're actually putting across as your body language. Because men are always at a disposition, in a difficult place because of their physicality. Women are strong, they are independent, and they are becoming more and more empowered, and so could take on the roles of seduction. But the problem you have when it's a man seducing, the physical aspect that you could, if your intentions weren't pure, for example, you could be stronger than me in a physical manner. And so you automatically create a cage is not the right word, but you create this energy that, if it goes wrong, could go really wrong. And so having a woman in that position, she can feel very vulnerable if you don't do it right. Whereas if you flip it, even though the woman could be the horniest person ever and throwing all the moves, but she may not be able to physically overpower you. Yeah. So you would never feel
threatened or intimidated.
You would never feel threatened. You would never feel intimidated because of that physical difference between the two. So that's why it's very key that you do it correctly. Because as soon as you start using your body in a physical manner that can be deemed as intimidating to a woman, you've ruined all sexual spark. You then become a sexual predator. You're then making the whole experience negative, and she's going to go away, and this perpetual stigma that seducing women is bad will be continued. And it can be by such a just one touch off. You stood in the wrong fashion, you loomed over her in the wrong way, and it's automatically click something in her brain and it's gone negative.
And I think I think that, you know, it's certainly, you know, when a guy approaches a woman, I think a guy should always be conscious of his distance. So you don't, you know, when you say you know, someone's had a few drinks and they go to a bar or they go to a club, like there might be a tendency for them to get really,
handsy and close.
incredibly close in the intimate space straight away, and they have no real kind of sense of, you know, backing away and kind of reading some of the signals, reading some of the disinterest signs and signals. However, you know, on the other side, even if you take it during the daytime, I think, you know, guys, like it could go wrong if, you know, a guy comes closer than, say, arm's length. You know, he approaches a girl that he doesn't know during the daytime, and he comes within, say, you know, an arm's length, which I always say to our clients that you should always be within arm's length of a person that you approach during the day, because, you know, you're in a public place. So, and
it keeps it at you then, because it's very much similar with seduction at nighttime or whatever. If you leave that space, you'll be able to gauge how she reacts to it, because if she then closes that gap
exactly
her terms, you've got a green light to go with it. But if you force yourself into that vicinity with her, you don't know where you stand, because you force yourself into a situation that's a little bit unnatural. Like, you've got to think about queuing for an ATM, right? There's that unwritten rule that there's that specific distance that you have to be
stood behind,
and that's a safe distance, and that's where everyone feels comfortable. If someone is a foot behind you, you're scared that they're going to rob you. And it's the same thing in seduction. You have to have that space where everybody feels comfortable, and you entice her with your words as opposed to physicality. You should always start a seduction with the power of your words and the way that you can make a woman feel verbally, because that's very powerful. If you say the right things to a woman, ticking all the boxes, getting everything going, you know, and that's just your vocabulary. And then once you get the green light, then that's when you start interjecting, you know, a little bit of physicality to it, and that's when the seduction just snowballs. And it's all about taking your time.
Exactly.
If you take your time with a woman, we've said this before, and I say it again, I'll say it all the time. Women work emotionally. Men work visually. Women, if you can stir their emotions, will be like putty in your hands. Absolute putty in your hands. Because especially nowadays, that talent, because that is a talent, to be able to use your words to trigger all these emotions and feelings, that skill is really rare nowadays. And it's why essentially Kamalifestyles exists, is to help people gain those skills, because they are so rare to find. And when you have them, your seduction game could be off the charts. And you'd be surprised where the negative aspect of seduction is always because the woman doesn't want it. She doesn't, because a lot of it is, if they haven't stirred her emotionally to be on board with what you're trying to do, then it is going to come across as a negative thing. But if you can turn those little light switches on where you get her brain going and you get her emotions going and you get her imagination going, she's right there with you. And it's definitely not one-sided. You're both going together.
Do you think there's one dominant factor? might put you on the spot now.
I love it. Put me on the spot. Go for it.
But because there obviously, you know, as you said, there are various factors which are involved in that seduction. So there's, as we talked about, there's like the distance that you stand, and there's the way in which you speak, and the vocabulary that you use. So yeah, there are a number of different factors, and you know, and even your energy levels, and you know how I suppose, you know, how quickly your tonality, you know, how quickly you speak, how slowly you speak. These are all factors. And yeah, I mean, of course, you know, when all these things are aligned and when all these things are like really well calibrated, then, you know, I don't think there'll be an issue with you know, you seducing the girl. It
does get this negative and when you're saying all of this, it gets this negative stigma, and women push against it, saying, I don't want to be picked up. And It grinds my gears. It really grinds my gears. Like there are a lot of people who will shun the idea of men seducing women, and they don't think it's right. But then I'm kind of like, but then what do you want? If you have such a negative ideals of seduction, that also means that you're not going to seduce a man. So are you going to be asexual and die alone? Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, how are you going to ever get forge relationships? Like, obviously you can go through friends and have sort of social connection, but that creates such a teeny tiny pool of people that you can communicate with and have those relationships with, that you'll probably end up, I mean, I'm just speculating, but you're probably going to end up in not going for the right person because they're the best of the small pool of people that you decided to socialize with. Yeah. You really limit yourself to who you can create those intimacies with, and the likelihood that in your social group there just happens to be the man of your dreams is very, very small. Yeah. And we're living in this world where we're closing off opportunities to socialise. We're putting it all online, and there's nothing face-to-face anymore because people are too scared to seduce women face-to-face in case they get thrown with a harassment clause suit. And it's this whole taboo thing that men don't know what to do anymore. Yeah. Where I am a firm believer, and you will never change my mind, that men will always and should always be the dominant party in seduction and in relationships. If you look at the animal kingdom, the males are the dominant party. Mm-hmm. They always have been. And even though that we have evolved into this higher evolutionary, we're far more intelligent than we used to be, and obviously we've created this culture that is a lot more level pegging, I still do not believe that you should deny the animalistic aspects of us mating. Because dress it up as you want. Yeah. Dress it up as you want, dress it down as you want. Humans, as animals, are supposed to mate, like all animals. That's what drives us chemically, and that's part of our biology. And so to deny that by putting it in these social forms in which girls can't talk to boys and boys can't talk to girls and no one can touch and no one can speak, we're gonna die out. Like, you understand what I mean? I still think that men have to play that role. And for me, I am a feminist and I am becoming very empowered, and I do feel very comfortable in my own skin. I still want a man to seduce me. I don't think that's taking away from my power at all. I don't think it is. I still want a man to seduce me, and I do not believe that is a threat on my femininity.
It's interesting that we have like different opinions in society now, where, you know, as you said, like there's a certain certain wing which, you know, they think that the roles should men should still be seducing women, and now, you know, we're seeing more and more so that women are becoming much more empowered. And interestingly, even in like physical attributes, you know, a lot of people are now saying that the fact that men have kind of excelled and beaten women in certain events in the Olympics, that could just be a kind of a victim of history and society. But anyway, I've gone a bit off topic, but what I wanted to say was that, I don't know, it's an interesting one. We can debate this.
The roles are still being defined. Yeah. And we've kind of broken out of this box that nobody wants to be in a box. And we still talk in stereotypes and all of this, but really everybody is each to their own, and you will never find somebody who views seduction in the same way as another, due to past experience, due to what they believe, due to how they feel that their role should be played in society and what they expect. You can't take away the animalistic aspect. It's about turning that animalistic aspect and basing it in respect. Yeah. Because that's what I feel has been lost throughout the years, and why maybe seduction has that bad name is because it isn't based in respect, and that is what grinds my gears, and why I completely understand why some people have that negative. As women become more empowered, I don't think that should minimalize what men do. I just think it means that they need to step up their game. Yeah. It's not about trying to take anything away from you. It's about us going, right, we're not going to settle for that crap anymore. We see what you're doing now, and we're going to let you know that that's not okay. Yeah. Because before we didn't have a voice, so you could do whatever you wanted, and we'd be like, okay, fine. We don't have that anymore. No. We're kind of calling you out. on your shit, no offense, but that's what we're doing. We're calling you out on it, going, that's not okay, that's not okay, that's not okay. And instead of letting that beat you down, you go, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna raise my game. I'm gonna be a better man. And that's kind of what we do. It's not trying to get you to seduce women and in that way. It's about raising your game so you can be more of a man for the women of the 21st century.
I really, I agree. I'm going to interject a bit.
Interject, go for it.
I agree with what you're saying. You say that, there should be an element of respect in it, and I think for kind of for that seduction to be good. And the way I see it is it's kind of like a football game where you have two sides.
Of course, going with football, carry on.
Listen to this. So you have two sides. Think about it. When you've watched the best football games, right? The best football games that you watched are the ones where the two teams have the best sportsmanship between them. They play the best, they play the fairest. Those are actually the best games. It's where the players can really excel and play the best football, right? It's not the games where the players play dirty. So in the same sense that for seduction to be kind of accepted, for sure there should be more sportsmanship between the man and the woman, and I think actually that is a great thing, and that's something that we should really appreciate, and something that we need to promote more. For example, meets a girl or seduces a girl, or the other way. There should be an element of sportsmanship to it, where boundaries.
Fun.
Yeah, boundaries are, and it's fun. It's fun. It's human nature, and boundaries are respected, and it's something that the woman and the man want to happen again. They want it to be repeated because it was a great great experience. And
I completely agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, and you're at the end of the day, like you're a woman. You might not be as strong as a man, and you're taking you might be taking the man with you to your bedroom. So there should definitely be there should be an element of that kind of sportsmanship in that. Okay, look, you guys get together, you get the work done.
Yeah, you do.
and then we can live together, and we can choose to be together, or we can you might not get along together, or you might you might like each other really well, and you can move on to, you can find someone else if that suits you. So
and I think it's that, I think you're completely right, it's that sportsmanship, is that I'm lucky enough that I've never felt like a victim in any sexual interaction that I've ever had. I've never felt like that. And I've always been a very strong party, and I think it's because I'm a very feisty female, as I'm sure you all know. Iain knows. I'm a very feisty female. I'm a very strong character. Yeah. So I know if somebody's going to come and play a shady game with me, I call them out and I'm like, no. And I'm very confident to put somebody in their place, because I will put somebody in their place if they're playing a bad game. But that's me. And not every woman is like me.
No.
There are some very shy women. There are some very, self-conscious women, and some unconfident women. And if you were to pull the same tricks on her as you would on me, the outcome would be very, very different, and our interactions and our view on it. Because I've walked into clubs, and guys have gone, oh God, I remember this one guy. I can't remember what he said exactly, but he started with the beginnings of a really cheesy pickup line, and I literally went, I'm going to stop you there. And I didn't get to the end of his sentence. I'm like, I'm going to stop you there. You're going to continue to tell me that I'm the woman of your dreams and it was fate that we walked in here. I'm going to tell you it's not, but I think you're a nice guy. So we can chat if you want, but don't try that out.
So he could have asked you if you were Swedish, at least.
I know, he loves that.
Come on. Think of something original.
Exactly. Think of something original, man. But it was it. He pulled this old trick book out, and I was like, I just shut it down. But if I wasn't as confident, and if I couldn't have interjected and I couldn't have stopped that, I would have wondered how that interaction would have been with somebody who felt a little bit weaker than I was. So it is interesting, because I'm so strong that I can never see seduction in the eyes of maybe a weaker person, because I don't let myself see it in a negative fashion, because I can give as good as I get. And I think that's what we need to promote in empowering women. And it's not to shut down that side, it's to be able to play the game. And I mean, we've spoken about this before. I think me and Emre talked about it in a different video, the sexualization of women and being freer. We need to embrace it and embrace that side of it, that we're sexually active and we're sexually free. So if you want to come play that game, you can come play that game with me. I'm like, but you better be good at it, because I'm very good at it, and we're going to see who's winning. It's like a game of chess. It's like, you try that. You think you're smart. You think you try that. But are you smarter than me? And I think that's the culture that we need to breed. Yeah. Is have women who play into that seduction game. And it's going to force men to get better at the seduction game.
Mm-hmm. You know, what you said about being put into that weak position, you know, I wouldn't just solely say that this is for women, you know, speaking for men as well, because I remember I coached the guy, you know, at Kamalifestyles, and you know, he came to me and he came to us and he wanted to learn how to meet women, right? So okay, we take him on board. We put him onto our residential training program, and we took him out for a few days, and you know, he got some really good results. You know, he got what he wanted. He got the confidence, and he knew what he could do. He developed the skills. So you know, one day he meets this really attractive girl. He hooks up with her, and then, you know, and the next day, you know, the girl just, you know, leaves him, or, you know, doesn't continue the interaction. So you know, you can also look at it both ways. Men can also be put into those positions where, you know, they really like someone, but unfortunately, you know, it's not, hooking up with her is not the be all end all. Like, there is, you know, she might not like you, or, you know, a whole host of things. So
it's right to talk about the flip side, and even though men are seen to be the more dominant ones and hold all the power, and they're forcing themselves upon people, women can do that too. Exactly, yeah. Women aren't this clean, crisp, oh, woe is me, boo-hoo. No, I'm going to say it, there are some conniving bitches out there. There are people that will take it back, and so men get all this bad press about seduction and things like that, but there are women that will allow themselves to be seduced in that game and then use it for their advantage. So it's about acknowledging that there's right on both sides, but there's also wrong on both sides.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's not, one side is not worse than the other. Men are not the negative party, and sometimes I feel that with how loud the feminist movement is shouting recently, they feel like they're a little bit downtrodden, and I don't like that. I don't think you should ever make anybody feel negative about who they are. You should challenge people to be better and call people out on their crap. If they're doing something wrong, both men and women, you should be strong enough and open enough to have the finger pointed at you saying, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that, and be, okay, let's grow from it. Yeah. And that's what it needs to be on both sides of the party. It needs to be both sexes. And when you become both accountable for your actions, when you incorporate into the seduction game, there's no right, there's no wrong, there's just two people coming together and having a good time. Now, if you get all the skills and you can read the body language and you understand where it's going, and you can know when to back off, know when to go for it, you will always have a positive experience. Yeah. But you have to be open to it not always going right.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. You know, one thing that I've always wondered is everyone actually different, you know, and in terms of seduction, is everyone's view on seduction actually different? And are there some people, as you mentioned earlier, are there some people who genuinely, you know, they don't want to be seduced and they don't want to have an intimate relationship with someone, whereas some people do? Or do we think that, you know, everyone actually kind of wants to be seduced, you know? However, there are certain people, certain subsets of society who just are a bit deluded about it and just really haven't kind of discovered themselves and haven't figured out that they're wrong. Actually, you know, they do want to be seduced, and you know, it's difficult because, you know, I've heard different views on this, different opinions. I'm always of the opinion that I kind of sway towards the opinion of people are different, and some people are just built like that. Whereas I know that there are some people who kind of strongly think that no, they're wrong. And they are delusional, you know.
I think it's right to say that everybody is different.
Yeah.
But I kind of straddle that question. I think everybody is different, and I think everybody's views of what seduction is differs, because I think the people who are against it and don't want to be seduced in that stereotypical fashion.
Way, yeah.
Because you can be seduced in many ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to flirt with you, and then it's going to lead to this, and that. That doesn't necessarily have to be seduction. And to make seduction such a small, such a small aspect as that's the only way you can do it, that's when people get negative feelings, go, that wouldn't work for me. It's like sex. Certain things work, certain things don't. There are some people who have really specific needs to get them to where they want to go, and I think seduction is the same.
So they built a certain view of
what seduction is,
how it is, how it's gonna look.
And they go, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. But if you get a person who is very, very similar to them, and their seduction is asking somebody to go to chess club, and they seduce each other by each other's intelligence, that can also be a thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that sounds like an acquired taste, but that could work for some people.
Really? Okay.
So it depends on how you perceive seduction. Obviously, we're talking about it in a very broad, stereotypical nature of the seduction that you'd have through your words, meeting people, instigating flirtatious conversations, and then snowballing from there. That's what we're talking about. But if you open up the idea that seduction can be anything, then I think everybody wants to be seduced.
You think so?
Yeah, I think everybody wants to be seduced. I just think there are people who don't think about it in the way that it should be thought about. That they stick too much to that stereotype, and that wouldn't work for everybody. If you meet a very, very shy, introverted female, trying to seduce her in a very extroverted fashion
might not work.
But if you get an extreme introvert who has managed to come across another extreme introvert, and they have their own sort of language in which they speak that they both feel very comfortable with, and those match and align, that can be a seduction in themselves.
Okay.
So I do believe, I think it's, nobody just wants to go at it.
Yeah.
Like if you talk about the animal kingdom and us wanting to procreate, nobody just looks at someone and goes, I'm going to procreate with you. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
I mean, at least not anybody that I know of. They don't just go, this is it, and there's no foreplay of any kind, whether it be emotional foreplay, verbal foreplay, or actual physical foreplay. It's never just straight in, wham bam, thank you ma'am, 9 months later you've got a child and continued the human race. There is always an element of seduction, and it comes down to, you still want the best mate for you.
Do we think that there could be a fine line? Say for example, you have two, say, introverts, just an example, and they play chess, on a couch or whatever.
Strip chess. That's my sort of chess.
Yeah. Well, like, say they play, or shot glass chess. That's another.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. That's dangerous. Yeah.
They're playing chess, right? At his place or at her place. Okay, but do we not think that isn't there a fine line between, okay, we're playing chess and now we begin to cross the line, and we begin to kind of like take our clothes off, we begin to transition into the intimacy. I mean, I could be wrong here, I could be looking at very narrow-minded, and perhaps checkmate is all it leads to.
That's it. Checkmate, I'm done.
Go to the bedroom. I don't know, because obviously my experiences are a bit different. But it's I always wonder whether there is a line, or perhaps I'm wrong. Perhaps people are different, and
I think you're looking at it. I don't think you're looking at it wrong. I think the time frame of seduction can differ.
Okay.
Because
I'm looking at it too quickly.
You're looking because you're looking at it in the eyes of the seduction game, or maybe a night out, or the day game, that sort of thing, when you go and you initiate something quite quickly. I think people who are a lot more shut off to their sexuality, and it takes a little bit more to get them into that mood. Let's say, take again for example these two introverts playing chess. It can be they play chess with each other every week,
right?
And and one move they accidentally brush hands, or the other time they give each other a hug goodbye, and the next time it's a kiss on the cheek, and then do you get what I mean?
It gradually
builds and builds and builds. So even though it doesn't look like seduction from the outside, it has been for a long period of time. So whether it's that is another aspect to look at it, is the time frame of the speed in which women like to be seduced differs. Maybe it's not the seduction in itself, it's the speed and maybe how much power they feel within that. Because if you go too quickly, you can feel powerless, and you're being swept off your feet into something that maybe you haven't thought through, something that maybe you don't feel comfortable with. But if you extend the time period and you give a girl enough time to think about what could happen, to plan it, because girls overthink, we think about stuff. So if you allow for that time, even though the seduction might not feel like this instantaneous, let's just rip each other's clothes off seduction, it still is seduction.
It's less sort of movie-like.
It's less movie-like. It's more based in reality.
Because maybe a lot of guys are like kind of, they think about it and they think of that scene in The Wolf of Wall Street when Jordan, was it DiCaprio, Jordan Belfort, he goes into her apartment. He's standing there, and she comes out with completely naked. So maybe it's probably
that. Maybe it's the misconception of what seduction really is. It doesn't have to be this instantaneous. Oh my God, you said 3 words to me now. You're the sexiest man ever. I'm going to throw myself at you. That is not really real. But if it's a, hey, you bought me a drink, or we've had a conversation, you're actually a really nice guy and I agree with you on loads of different things, and then you start flirting with me, and then we start getting a little bit more playful, and then a little bit of touch comes in, and then it's this slow build. And if that happens on one night, that might happen on a couple of nights, that might happen on a couple of dates. You don't necessarily have to seduce a woman in the first date. You don't have to do that.
I can't believe what we've uncovered. It's just
we're blowing
we've
the minds of everyone.
We've completely,
But I think it's very interesting for us to talk about it as well, and always remember, because us as dating coaches are very, very confident. We sometimes
we might see it differently.
We've worked through all of the negative aspects of how we see seduction, and we've framed it in our minds in such a good place that we've made it our careers. So we're never going to see it like the average person, because we've dedicated our lives to mastering it and being involved in it. So to talk about it and to actually strip it down and to think in depth about how other people see it, it's very interesting.
I'm going to go get my chessboard now.
I know. Can you even play chess? You're going to learn how to play chess.
I'm going to start learning now. I'm going to take it to my next date.
Oh, take that pawn, take that knight.
Take that knight. Start brushing the hands.
Yeah, that's it. It could happen. It would be like the longest movie of all time, but it could totally happen.
Funny enough, I can visualize that taking place. I can see that, the way that you described it. I can totally understand that, actually. And I think that was a really good kind of explanation of how it could happen. So,
and so you need to just change. Maybe people generally need to change the way that they view seduction, and be open to the different variables of the different personalities like specific things, and the time periods that it takes to warm somebody up in a sexual fashion is very, very different. And you have to be willing, if you are looking to have intimacy with women and seduce women, you have to go. It is kind of by, if you're the one that's instigating it, you have to go by the timetable that they set out. And really, she should be important enough to you. And I don't want to delve off into a whole other aspect, but it's how you look at women and their value to your sexual conquest, to that sexual intimacy, and how much respect you have for her. That plays a big role, because if you're looking at it from the eyes of, a little bit of a misogynistic way, that you're looking to conquer, just get another notch on your bedpost, then you're not going to have the intelligence and patience to work with the woman on her timetable. But that's what you need to do. Really, it shouldn't be about, I'm gonna pinpoint. It's not about that. It should be, if you like somebody and you do want to be intimate with them, then take your time and go at her pace. Now, on the flip side of that, you've obviously got women who are out in clubs who are just looking to have a good time. So if you are looking for that quick fix and you are trying to get that seduction on that night time, you can as well. But you just have to cater to the person that's in front of you. And if that person isn't a one-night seduction type of a gal, you need to respect that. Because if you then disrespect that, that's when that negativity comes in. And that's what you want to avoid. And if we can all work together to eradicate that aspect of it, men and women generally will get on a lot better, and there won't be this tit for tat, oh, I'm a strong woman, oh, you're a strong man, la la la. We'll all just kind of be like, good game, man, good game.
I suppose the whole seduction, the very name of it, and the thought of it is kind of it becomes a victim of modern day advertising, because everything nowadays, everyone wants quick results, whether it's fitness or seduction. Learning. There's a term called speed seduction, which is how to kind of seduce quickly. And I think everyone wants quick results, so that is probably a factor which makes the whole term misunderstood, and people think that seduction has, as you said, has to be done quickly, when in reality it doesn't have to be, it doesn't always have to be done quickly. It isn't always quick, it can happen over a longer period of time. So
and it's just how much time you want to invest in that specific person, and that's up to you, that's up to them. You just gotta go with it.
So do women really want to be seduced?
Yes, they do, but on their own timetable.
Yeah, I agree.
Sweet, look at that. And talking of time, we've probably talked for enough of it.
We have.
But that was good. I feel like I've been enlightened myself. Thank you, Iain.
Me too. I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it.
So we hope that you've loved this video. If you have feedback, if you do want to bring up any topics that we've talked about, please drop it in the comment box below. We will endeavour to try and read all of them and get back to you. And if you've got any ideas of things that you do want us to debate, we are all ears. Like, share, comment and subscribe. If you do want to get coached by us, there's also a contact us link that you can find in the description box below, and we can help you master that level of seduction, so you've got those skills and you can gauge what women want, and it will really increase your success rate, but also make sure you're not getting any sticky situations where you're misreading.
Of course,
and because that's what we want to try and help and avoid. So that's kind of what we do. So click on that contact us link. One of our customer service reps will be in touch with you. Also head to Kamalifestyles. All of our products, all of our ebooks, all of our courses, you can find all the information there. And
don't forget to like, share and subscribe.
Hit that little cheeky red button, turn on that bell, ding-a-ling-ling. And that's it.
That's all from us today.
I'm Annabella Rose.
Iain Myles.
Sorry, Iain Myles. And we will see you next time on Karma Couch.